Okay, so I want to talk about self-handicapping, and I want to talk about excuses, and I want to talk about basically what matters and what doesn't as far as bringing injuries and all this other stuff to a coach's attention because it's like as a coach you want to, number one, be informed, and you want your players to feel comfortable to come to you with any sort of problem, whether it's like, hey, my ankle's bothering me or my shoulder's bothering me or whatever it is, because you don't want small injuries to become big injuries. And that's what happens when players don't tell you they have something going on. But at the same time, there's a lot of little things that go on that just either have a black and white response. And semi recently, this was brought up where one common excuse that I heard numerous times over the last 2 weeks, I don't know why, was I can't see the ball. I'm like, why did that ball drop? Or why did you get such a slow break on that ball in the outfield? They said, well, I couldn't see it. Why did that, why didn't you go for that pop up? I couldn't see it. And my question then is, well, do I need to take you out of the game? If you can't see the ball in the air, should I take you out of the game? The answer is no. I said, well, if you can't see the ball, but yet I shouldn't take you in the game, what's going to change? Like, can you see the ball next time? They're like, I'll figure it out. Well, then if you could figure it out, was there ever really a problem, or did you just maybe were kind of lazy and lost focus? Maybe you were like looking over in the stands, or you were just, I don't know, just somewhere in La La Land where you didn't see that particular one because it was your fault, not because of some fault with your vision, with your retina, with your corneas, or whatever, or the conditions. And the other thing is, and this happened last year, we had a kid who just was striking out every at bat, one of our older teams, and I said, hey, like, I know you're struggling a lot. Like, what's going on? I mean, can you give me any insight? Like, I don't know how to help you. And he said, well, I can't see the ball. I can't see the ball. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Do you need to go to the eye doctor? And he said, no. I'm like, well, it's not your swing mechanics. Like, your swing mechanics are okay. You're just not hitting the ball. Like, you're not even close sometimes. So he's like, I just can't see the ball. I'm like, well, if you can't see the ball, then I probably need to take you out of the lineup, right? Like, I mean, if it's not a physical, mechanical swing problem, and you say you don't want to go to the eye doctor, then you're just not good at baseball. Like, am I hearing you right? And I didn't really get a straight answer. I don't know what it was, as it wasn't just like that particular field. Other hitters were obviously hitting the ball and scoring runs. It was really just him. So the question was, is this an excuse? Is this like a cry for help? Is this actually a vision problem, like you need to go see the eye doctor for? What is it? And basically the thing with excuses is, and I talked to a couple of my players about this recently, where they say, hey, like, this happened, or I'm feeling this. I'm like, okay, well, do I need to take you out of the game? No. I'm like, well, then why'd you tell me about it? Did you tell me about it just to make an excuse for yourself, or does your knee actually hurt, or does it not hurt? Like, if it does hurt, I'll take you out of the game, and there's no fault on you for it. But if you can't do the job, then I have to take you out of the game. So can you do the job? Are you actually in pain? Can you actually not see the ball, or whatever the excuse was? It's not always like a pain thing. It's sometimes just like I didn't see it, or I'm losing track of it, or whatever it is. The question is, okay, if it's a medical thing, should I take you out of the game? If the answer is no, well then are you going to hurt yourself? Is this an injury that's going to get worse? No. Well, then what is it? If it's not an actual injury, if doesn't require medical attention, if you're really fine to stay in the game, like truly fine to stay in the game, like you're not lying to me, and you're not going to injure yourself by going out and putting more force through a joint or muscle that's having a problem, then why did you tell me? More often than not, it just seems like they're trying to like either self-handicap, which means they're just giving you an excuse now for future poor performance, which is a very common thing. I mean, a lot of pitchers before they go out, even in the very high levels of pro ball, one of my teammates who pitched in the major leagues was a chronic like he'd just like be the first guy to say, oh, I don't feel very good today. Like, oh man, my arm. Just like make it very known to everyone that his arm felt like crap. So then if he pitched like crap that night, I guess he already had an excuse lined up, and if it pitched great, then everyone thought he was like a tough guy or something. I don't know. It was a win-win for him complaining about his arm before he'd pitch. But the reality is that no one really cares at a certain level of baseball. So say you got called up to the major leagues, and there's two catchers, and catcher one says, pop-up drops and they say, hey, what happened? Oh, I couldn't see it. Like, do we need to call the team eye doctor? Oh, no, no, no. Well, then catch the ball. Okay. Like, that's all there is to it. Well, okay. So you don't need medical attention. You couldn't see the ball. Well, okay. Well, our other catcher seems to be able to see the ball and catches the ball when it comes down to him. So we're going to put him and we're going to release you. We're going to send you back to AAA or whatever it is. There's just like there's a certain point where it's like, do you have something wrong with you? And if you do, that's fine. And that's a genuine excuse and a genuine valid reason that we should get you looked at and get you help, take you out of the lineup, whatever it is, so that the team can be better, so that you can be better and reach your full performance. But if there's literally no reason, if you're telling me that you can't see the ball or that you're hurt or that something's bothering you, but you don't want anything to do with it, you can continue to want to play third base or first base or second base, and no, I'm fine. I can play fine. Like, don't take me out of the game. I'm good to go. Then why'd you tell me that you had a problem? If you're fine, then you're fine. If you're not fine, then you're not fine. And with pitchers especially, it's pretty cut and dry, especially in like minor league baseball and independent baseball, especially independent baseball where, like, I mean, no one really cares about your health. Like, you can either pitch or you can't pitch. That's really all there is to it. And you learn that after like your first year. There's no like, hey, I don't feel good today, or like, hey, my elbow kind of hurts. Because if they're like, okay, your elbow kind of hurts, so you're down today? No, I can pitch. Well, then why'd you come into my office? If you can pitch, then just shut up and just go pitch. If you can't go pitch, then tell me you're injured and I'll put you on the disabled list, and then I will find a replacement for you. And then when you come back, you can fight for your job back, with this new guy who comes in who might be better than you. That's sort of how it works. So the question is, are you hurt and can you play? Or do you just want to tell me that you're kind of hurt for unknown reasons, really? I don't know. And that's just kind of how it goes. So sometimes that's self-handicapping. Sometimes it's just making excuses. Sometimes it's trying to make yourself feel better when you just didn't play that well. Because, we had scrimmages recently and a couple of our outfielders were just getting super late breaks on like routine fly balls. And I asked, I'm like, what's going on? Like, I feel like the ball's halfway there and you're not then just starting to move, and like I can't see it. I'm like, well, it's a normal like sunny June day. Like, what do you want? Like, if you can't see the ball, I got to put someone else out there. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the sky is like half blue and half filled with clouds. It's 12 o'clock p.m. These are like baseball conditions. If you can't see the ball, I understand if that's like really truly what's happening, but at the same time, I don't care if you can't see the ball. If you can't see the ball in like a normal day playing the outfield, then you just can't play baseball. And I'll just put someone out there who can hopefully probably see the baseball, because it seems like the other team reacts just fine, and our other outfielders also seem to react just fine. So it seems like it's a you problem, and I don't know what to tell you because if there's not a medical issue, and this is like a typical condition under which you would play baseball, then you're expected to perform. I don't really know. And it's been interesting dealing with younger players. I've been a coach or assistant coach with all of our teams at 18U, 17U, 16U, 15U, 14U over the last couple of years, and you hear different things out of all of them, different pain tolerances, different failure tolerances, different excuses, different ways of rallying each other, different ways of just coming back from poor performances. People put their head down, keep their heads up. It's just like so many different personalities, in addition to my career as a player and all the guys that I had in my dugout and played against. And it's just interesting to see the difference. But as the level goes higher, guys make less and less excuses, number one, and they almost never make excuses that don't seem to impact their playing time. And I'll give you a story as I wrap up, because my playing career ended on a weird combination of like not excuses but miscommunication. It was really strange. And I've told the story before, but it's worth repeating here now, because basically in my last season, I started the year with shoulder pain. Like, I woke up on opening day and like I like couldn't lift my shoulder above my arm, but I had a plan. I was like, I'm going to take my medication. I'm going to do all these shoulder exercises. I'm going to fix my mechanics during the season. No one has to know about it. And by time I like get through all this stuff, I do some more different shoulder stuff and I take my meds, that calms it down. And then I fix my mechanics a little bit. I'm going to be healthy, and no one would ever know, they're none the wiser. That was my plan. That was a legitimate plan. Obviously, like if you're hurt and they give you rehab, that's pretty much what happens, right? They make a plan for you, they give you medication. It all just sorts to work out. You just get a little bit better each day. And then while still playing every day, and then at some point, 4 to 8 weeks later, you're like, fine. So that was all fine while I was still pitching well, because the first like 3 weeks I was still pitching well. Then my performance started to degrade, and I was getting treatment, so it was like somewhat known that like something was going on, but I wasn't really talking about it because I didn't really care to talk about it. It wasn't like complaining to other guys to make sure everyone knew that my arm hurt was going to like affect me or my performance or how they felt about me. It just like didn't really matter. So I didn't like make it very well known. If someone asked me, I'd tell them, but like who cares if my shoulder hurts a lot or a little or whatever. I was still pitching. So if I was still pitching, my condition didn't matter, because again, you're either like hurt or you're healthy. Like either you can pitch for us, and if you pitch, you're expected to pitch at 100%. If you can't pitch, then you're on the disabled list, and if you're not on the disabled list, then you're essentially 100%. There's no like going out there 90%, 95%. Even if you actually are, you're expected to perform at 100%. That's the standard, and I knew that. So I chose not to go on the disabled list. I chose not to complain about it, and chose not to like tell everyone about it. I just chose to like, my shoulder feels how it feels. I'm going to get treatment. I'm going to do what I need to do. Even if other people see me getting treatment, which had to happen after a couple weeks of me kind of trying to keep it under wraps. It's just like whatever. So I didn't perform well after the first couple weeks. My performance started to slip, and I started to not really get people out. And I was kind of faced with a crossroads, and I talked to my manager one day after a game, and I'm like, look, my shoulder has not been feeling good, but I've thought really hard about my performance, and I don't think my shoulder is the reason. I just think I've lost a little bit of an edge pitching for this team and sort of like being comfortable with the role that I earned. And, I feel like I'm just trying to repeat last year's all-star performance, because I was an all-star the previous year. I feel like I'm just trying to repeat last year's performance instead of being like super hungry to be better than I ever was, which was my attitude every other prior year. And I'm like, my shoulder's not great, but that's not an excuse for how I've been pitching. And I really just think it's like a mental thing that I feel like I figured it out, and I'm going to go out and pitch a little more aggressively than I have been. And I think that will all correct itself. And he said, okay, like, thanks for talking to me. Like, okay. So that was genuinely how I felt about it. And then over the next 3 weeks, I continued to pitch worse and worse and worse, to the point where they traded me away, which was essentially like releasing me. And then when they traded me, I wanted to start fresh. The other team didn't know about my shoulder, because after that, this is what I didn't know. After I had that conversation with my manager, he said, okay, like he's just going through a normal kind of thing that guys go through, where they're not 100%, but they're still fine to pitch. Not that big a deal. Blewett talked to me about it, whatever. So when they trade me, that was kind of the report they got, that I'm like maybe like not perfect, but still good to go. And I called them and explained, hey, I really want to get healthy as I start my season with you guys. And I really think I need to see a doctor and like get some stronger medication, because I really hadn't seen a doctor at that point, and they didn't really give me much, and it was like pretty bad. And they're like, oh, we didn't know that. We thought you were just like, they said you're like kind of having like a little thing, but we thought you were pretty much healthy. I'm like, no, that's not really the case, because I kind of hit it. And so my manager then calls me back after they talked, and he's like, hey, what's this report I hear about you being hurt and telling the other team that you're hurt? I'm like, it's kind of like the truth. I know I told you that 3 weeks ago, and that was also the truth, but I just want to start fresh with this new team, and I don't want to like continue to be like battling intense pain all the time. And so then after a couple of phone calls between, I guess, the management, they decided, this guy's hurt, we don't want him. So I got released, and that was the end of my career. And so it was a weird thing where it came back to bite me, that I was like not saying that I was hurt, that I was like, no, I'm fine enough to pitch, and I truly believe you're either on the disabled list and you're injured, or you're healthy, and you can choose which one you are. But you have to know the difference too, because if you're not healthy and you keep pitching, you'll end up on the disabled list and be really, really hurt. And it was just a different situation. When you go to a new team, you get a fresh start, and you don't want to be like continuing to battle, because I knew there was not going to be a reasonable expectation of improving my results feeling the same way that I had been feeling. Like my results were not good and I didn't feel good. So if I'm going to start fresh with like a new ERA with a new team, why expect different results? I'll probably be another 7 ERA pitcher if I'm just doing the same stuff, feeling the same way. So I wanted to get healthy, but when I told them that, now they're getting a disabled list pitcher instead of a healthy pitcher, and that changes the deal. So my point in that story is sometimes that mentality can also bite you. In that sense there, I believe that if I wasn't hurt, I was going to stay on the field. But in doing that and communicating that to my manager, he interpreted that as he's fine, and that ended up being my undoing. So, it's a thing where you don't want to make excuses. You don't want to let young players make excuses. And there's also a certain amount of pain you have to tolerate as a young player. Or as an old player. You watch the guys on TV, none of them are healthy. They're all battling something. They're all getting taped up, getting medication, getting whatever it is to stay healthy enough to play on the field. You just don't know about it because, most of them don't come out of the game. And you hear little things like tendonitis, and those are actually big deals. Like tendonitis can be extremely painful. People kind of like scoff at it as something you should just be able to easily play through, but it's often not. Some of the worst pain that I pitched through was tendonitis in my shoulder, which ended my career, and also in my elbow. One year when I was healthy and pitching well, but not hurt enough to need a surgery or go on the DL. So tendonitis can be a real serious thing. But moral of the story is, it's hard to know as a player when to say take me out of the game and when to say keep me in the game. And if you're staying in the game, does anyone else really need the information that you're not 100%? And a lot of times the answer is no. If it's something where it might get worse and fester and become a real injury, then people need to know about it and you need to come out. If it's not, like, hey, I feel a little bit sick today. I don't feel great. I didn't get a good night's sleep, or I like kind of tweaked my back, but I'm fine, like sleeping or whatever it was. But I'm fine to play. Then if you're fine to play, then you have to play well. You can't play, and no one gives you a chance to play at 90%. That's my point. Is if you have an issue that affects your ability to play full speed, then you have to either play at full speed or come out of the game. And if you can't come out of the game, then you have to play at full speed. If you can't play at full speed, then come out of the game. But there isn't that in between where it's like, oh, sorry, I was hurt or I wasn't feeling well. I've been kind of sick. So that's why I didn't get to that ground ball. Or that's why I didn't catch that routine fly ball. Or that's why I gave up 6 runs. Like, no. You either come out of the game if you can't play to your potential, or you play to your potential. Those are the only real 2 options in sports. And again, the tolerance for that and the funnel of that gets stronger as you go up. So that's all I got, I think, today on excuses and self-handicapping. And I've talked about that stuff in the past, but it's important to reiterate because a lot of people, it just takes time to have that mentality sink in. Because, again, the standard you want to live by when you're a young player is the standard that you're going to be held to when you're an old player. Again, when you're an older player, they don't care if you have little things that aren't going to hurt you but are going to impact your performance. It's either can you play or can you not.